what is it that I'm hiding for? What is it I'm running from? What is it that I'm trying to suppress? The challenging side is I've had to confront these demons of what is it that I have been ignoring for so long.
How have things gone now? How have people reacted?
Well, this time has been, I haven't really been out on a scene as much as I'm sure most people haven't. In the last 120 something days, I've sort of lost count now, which is something that is quite good, and I think that's thanks to you again of saying that it's a good idea to just, once you get to a certain point, remove this counting element, because the counting element still suggests there's some kind of power there, and still suggests that you're identifying yourself with that. So but yeah, this time round, so 120 whatever days it is, I guess what I thought would be a challenge would be getting through the festive period, having never done a Christmas with no alcohol, a Christmas New Year with no alcohol, since probably I was 13 or something, 14. Wow. And but I spoke to my family, I spoke to my Bristol friends about it, and everyone was just really understanding and supportive, and I made sure that I said it quite early on. And interestingly, I found that when I first was going to say it, I felt nervous and scared of bringing it up, because firstly with my friends, I thought they'd be like, oh, well, that's almost disrespectful to us. Every Christmas we go out and we drink. That's what we do. That's our thing. Why are you dishonoring that? Come on, don't be ridiculous. But everyone was super nice. And then with the family, they were super supportive. I was kind of a bit scared of ridicule, or almost just like the shame of saying that I'm not drinking suggests that there is a problem there. But again, super supportive, and my family got me loads of alcohol-free, like nice alcohol-free beers, and we were making cocktails and stuff, and yeah, everyone was really supportive. So and by that point, like any habit, it becomes easier with time. It becomes normalized with time, and I think at that point, however many days we were into it, like pretty much 3 months by the time Christmas came around, it had become, being a non-drinker had become inextricably woven into the fabric of my being, I suppose, of this is who I am now, and I feel good about being this person. And I was excited by the time we got to Christmas. I was excited by the thought of being back in that family situation and being able to be in complete control, and no kind of, oh, well, I might drink a lot and maybe say something stupid or wake everyone up in the night because I'm clattering around the kitchen making toast or whatever it was. I know none of that's going to happen. I know I'm going to be up every morning drinking coffee with my folks, looking out the window at the garden and chatting. It's so excited about the thought of consistently, that's what it's going to be. Board games, making Technic Lego, whatever. Awesome. And it was a really pure and authentic sort of joy, and one that I hadn't felt, I guess, since being a kid. Because when you're a kid, you don't need alcohol or cigarettes or drugs or whatever to have fun. You're just high on the things you like doing. And one of my kind of driving inspirations through this was, why can't I just get back to that again? And I've found, as more days have gone by and weeks have gone by, that that your mind just it finds new things for you to be excited about. And whereas alcohol used to be something that was like, right, can't wait till we go to the pub tonight after the rehearsal or the weekend, there's partying or whatever it is, I often used to use it as a motivation of, right, we'll work really hard all week and then we can have like this complete blowout on the weekend. And now I'm more excited about the idea of, I can go to the board game cafe on the weekend or whatever it is.
Is that something that you do?
That's something I've started doing. Yeah,
that's cool, man.
And
like what are you playing at?
All sorts, really. We're going to play. We're going a bit old school this weekend. We're going to do Monopoly.
What was that?
Going a bit old school this weekend. We're going to do Monopoly.
Monopoly, okay.
Yeah, because it's one of those games that's so like standardized. It's really amusing to see different rules that people seem to have adapted from their own families over the years and stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's like, there's an element of me that it's, oh, that's really sad that you're doing that. Why didn't you go to the pub? Why didn't you go clubbing? And I'm just thinking, well, hang on, no, because I've got potentially, if everything goes ahead, like 4 or 5, 6 months of touring this year, of going out and playing music, and that's amazing. That's fun. So I'd much rather focus on that as the good, exciting stuff, and then I'm going to just spend the time off that I've got in a more kind of chilled board game kind of coffee environment with people that I genuinely want to chat with and have a laugh with.
Well, the I guess the juxtaposition, and it's just very strange to me that that getting absolutely wasted goes almost hand in hand with the rock and roll lifestyle, the drink and drugs, and and even when people throw sex into it as well, like this overindulgence of this type of individual, and it's almost like that expectation. When I say to people, oh no, sorry, I don't drink, thanks very much. Aren't you in a band? Aren't you supposed to be some sort of rock and roll? I'm like, listen, mate, I'm probably one of the most rock and roll yet unrock and roll people you'll ever meet, because I'm to the job. Yeah, I'm not the to the I guess the stereotype, really. And when you're so wasted and you're so hungover, we've both worked with people that have problems, and it's not a pleasant experience when you want to just get the job done. And I've worked with people who have had serious problems, and you know what? They don't get a call back. And I've always known how I want to be not just perceived, but how I want to be remembered after a job, which is, you want to be remembered as being professional. You want to be remembered as someone who gets the job done. You want to be remembered as someone who's dependable. You don't want to be remembered as someone who was just complaining about this epic night they had before, which has nothing to do with the job at hand. So ultimately, this weird rock and roll thing of getting absolutely smashed in, like the Motley Crue, old school Ozzy Osbourne, because not new school Ozzy Osbourne, but old school Ozzy Osbourne sort of vibes, the old Led Zeppelin vibes, where sort of very sort of misogynistic, all this kind of stuff, and then it's like that you're putting that into, because to be a musician, especially in today's day and age, you have to be on it. Because in the era of a pandemic, where musicians can get pulled out of a touring party at a moment's notice, you might be the one who gets the call. If you are out of your mind on drugs, alcohol, and you can't make the show, you just have to be ready. You just have to be ready so much in so much of your lives to take those opportunities.
But yeah, and it's like, it does seem really odd that being that there's this rock and roll lifestyle of drinking and drugs that seems to be inextricably linked with being a musician, because being a musician is a really hard job. It's never consistent. It's not like you can go, right, we know we've got 8 hours a day of work to do, and then on the weekend we can get pissed. It's not like you work in like a stationery shop and you're like, right, we're sorting out those staplers on Tuesday, hole punches Wednesday, dividers on Thursday, Friday night, sorted, mate. But we don't have that sort of security of knowing what's going to happen next. No. So why would you make that even harder by creating this like drinking, not being in a good state of mind, hangovers, missing out on things and stuff, when it's already enough of a challenge to try and build a career as a musician? I think that a lot of those stereotypes come from the fact that the nature of the industry is that those bands that endorse that behavior, or apparently endorse that behavior, we don't know, are still our metal gods, because we don't necessarily have a bunch of new rock and metal gods that should have come in. Because of just, I think, the way that we see the same bands on the headlining festivals, the same bands on the front of another Pull-Out special on Led Zeppelin, because those are still our gods. Whereas if perhaps in the early 2000s, and yes, there are bands that we can still refer to that, but it's still not strong enough for us to go, right, for the youth of today, their metal gods are the bands of the early 2000s who perhaps didn't drink, who were straight edge and had that ethos.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened. So it's no surprise that it's still those are still our archetypes. Those are still the stereotypes of that whole like Motley Crue thing. And it always kind of shocks me with Motley Crue. Like, how did they become successful if they were just in that level of decadence all the time? Like when do you go, right guys, rehearsal on Thursday, I want to look at the midsection of Looks That Kill. I think the hi-hat pattern is like, when do those conversations happen?
Yeah. I do think the amount of money that gets pumped into that
this is true.
I mean, because when you look at Guns N' Roses, I think there was like $2 million which went unaccounted for, and there just isn't that type of money flying around in the industry these days. And I remember there was a friend of mine went on tour with Airborne, it was, and he said they were the most, and this is all due respect to them, I think they're an incredible band, but I think there's a reason why they're incredible. And also, and I think they have the same ethos as AC/DC, where it's like you're professional, you're to it, and you just go home. Like you're done with the show, you put on an amazing show, do a good show, yeah, and then you go home, and that's it. But I think I remember Airborne, I remember seeing, it was an interview with them on the same tour he was on. He was like, they were so boring. They were on their laptops to their wives, to their girlfriends at home, just sorting out some files, maybe going through some demos or whatever. Then they had an interview, and then they turned it on.
Really?
And then they were like, yeah, like, you know, we just gonna get some whiskey down our necks and those kind of stuff. And it's like, it's still almost being shined on in a way. And I've had to fight against record labels in the past who tried to give projects that I was in sort of that sort of old school image. And I was like, no, you're not. You want to have women doing what in our photos? No, absolutely not. You want me to have a bottle of whiskey on stage? I don't drink. Fill it with like tea, black tea. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm not doing that, because for me, I feel that I have a responsibility to an audience. I knew a lot of, like, especially when I was in a band called Days in December, we had a lot of young we had a lot of young listeners who listened to us, and there was that I sort of had to understand. A lot of people thought I was on drugs anyway, because I was so mad after a show. I think adrenaline is very, very powerful. Yeah. And when you've on that, it is like a high. And, you know, so I guess that brings me on to the next question is, what has sort of been the benefits that you've seen from I want to say this journey. I don't want to say from being teetotal or going sober. Well, I don't even know how to say it, but what from this journey, because it does seem like you've gone on a journey, and it's not just about dropping the alcohol. It's about experiencing other things that fill many gaps.
First of all, I feel confident now that there are no limitations to what I can do anymore.
Nice. I like that a lot. I really like that. Yeah.
And that's not just in the sense of achievement, but also in the sense of happiness. And learning about a world without those obstacles is exciting. And I think this is the important thing about this for me, was that the reason why many times anybody has any sort of dependency upon a substance or addiction, which is a difficult word to use, and I'm still not definitely sure if that is the word that is necessarily appropriate for my relationship with alcohol. But what I can say is that my relationship with alcohol had so many negative repercussions that it was a problem. Okay, so whether or not I was addicted to it, if I wouldn't wake up in the morning and be like, God, I gotta have a vodka, but I would have a negative relationship with alcohol, and it made me very unhappy. And I felt at times that I couldn't imagine a world without it. And one quite telling moment was I only went to AA once, and it was almost like I felt, am I allowed to be here? Am I serious enough a case to be here? Is it disrespectful to be here? Do I feel like some sort of voyeur by being here? And I went in there feeling very confident and just like, oh, this will be an interesting anthropological experiment.
Yeah.
And when it got to me to talk, I remember the first thing was, oh, well, you know, I'm going to try and be interesting and entertaining, because naturally as like a performer, I want to be engaging. So that was my first, not like, oh, great, I can't wait to talk about these issues I've had with alcohol. It's like, let me try and be entertaining. And to my absolute shock, within about 30 seconds of talking, I broke down crying. And the moment of the onset of the tears was the moment I said, sorry, get a bit thinking about it.
Take your time.
The moment that I had that realization, almost on the spot, of if there's no alcohol in my life, I feel like there's nothing left to look forward to. And that was like a real light bulb moment of, do I really think that? I guess I do. And it made me step back and go, okay, so my life is full of joyful things, and I love creating, and I love music, and I love being in bands. So why do I think there's nothing more to look forward to if there's no alcohol? And that, amongst other things, was what made me actually step back and go, okay, there is a deeper problem here which has to be confronted. The reason for me seeing alcohol, which is essentially something that just cuts out any sense of future causality, and it numbs your kind of critical voice, and it makes you feel powerful, and it makes you feel happy, and all the kind of stimulants and everything. What is it that I'm hiding for? What is it I'm running from? What is it that I'm trying to suppress? And so what I've found is that actually now these last 3, almost now 4 months, have been both the best and the most challenging times of possibly my whole life. I've had the liberation and the freedom and the security and the confidence of knowing, hey, if you ask me to do something on a Sunday morning, I'll be there, because I know I will be there, which is an amazing feeling. The downside, or not the downside, but the challenging side, is I've had to confront these demons of what is it that I have been ignoring for so long, because by the end of the week, I'm going to get drunk again and then spend some time being drunk, some time being hungover, and then there's no real time to actually examine what's happening on a deeper level. And now I'm having to examine it, and it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary stuff that I'm now examining and interrogating and working to beat. But I couldn't have done it if I just kept this cycle going of the drinking.
Do you think the alcohol just kept kicking the can down the road? Like, just, you know, I don't like the thoughts would maybe rise up, and you think, okay, well, we have to suppress this, but it's still always there. And you hear that a lot with, which I've been very aware of people drinking, and what it does is, if you drink to suppress things, it only makes you pay back what you have to confront with interest.
Yes.
And you know, because amongst all of it, you've got the added thing of time, and you might have upset some people because you go, I'll deal with that later, and then you suppress it, but you haven't called that person, or haven't confronted that, or haven't paid off that debt, etc. It might not even be money, but actual just attention. And the more it sort of accumulates, it becomes a sort of exponential growth. And I remember something you said, which was not thinking that there was anything good to look forward to. And I think one of the most painful things for me was realizing that someone who I was romantically involved with had an alcohol problem, when they were being nice to me. They like, the relationship was like in a bad way, and one day she was being nice to me, And I was like, oh, maybe things are going to be okay. And then she was like, I have had like 3 ciders tonight. And I was like, oh no, like this is, you're the only reason that you're being nice to me is because it's now leveling you out, and you're not actually confronting what the real issue is. And Yeah, that was very, very painful. And for me, uh, hearing that coming from you, from someone who I like look up to in many, many ways, as someone who's uh, who's a success. I've looked at you as someone who has been able to galvanize almost a scene, who's been able to look at certain ideas and think, okay, well, I'm gonna make my own version of that. Who's been able to network, and someone who is healthy and handsome and witty and fun and all these things, and who gets on stage and is able to command an audience and is able to command all this talent, to then step back and say, well, um, without alcohol, there's nothing to look forward to. Yet in everything I've just described, there is so much in your life and so much to look forward to. And it almost, there was something that Amy Winehouse said. I think she just won a Grammy, and she leant into a friend and said, "This is so boring without drugs." And she's at this pinnacle, and it's now boring because there's not this stimulant involved. So I mean, I'm so glad that you feel that you're far more on the other side of that right now. How do you feel about going on tour now? Are you is that anxiety? Is there a different kind of anxiety? What's sort of going on with
I
the
feel
thoughts that are going on?
I feel safe with it. I feel safe with it because I know that I feel confident about talking to other musicians about it, and I'm not gonna. If someone offers me a beer, I'm not gonna go, oh well, I can't, and then it'd be this long, like 5-hour story as to why. I can. I'll just say I'd rather not, or it doesn't agree with me, or something like, and that's it. It doesn't have to be this protracted conversation. It doesn't have to get dramatic. And I also know now that thanks to a brilliant technique called play the tape forward, which I'll explain in a second, is that is really powerful for me as a way of staying on the right path. Play the tape forward is essentially a technique whereby you think, if I drink this one drink, where am I going to be based on empirical evidence of the past? Where am I going to be in an hour? Where am I going to be in 6 hours? Where am I going to be in 12 hours? Where am I going to be in 24 hours? And you almost like take yourself through that journey, and then you realize how terrible it's going to be in 24 hours time, and then you go, oh well, then let's not do it. So it's
I
almost like you've been able to just reverse the whole thing.
I have a technique I've really started adopting. It's called, and it's very similar. I call it play it through. I just go, okay, well, let's play it through. Even if I'm talking to someone else, I go, okay, let's just play this through. If we do this, and it's not about like bad decision. It's very useful it's useful in business. It's useful in what you eat. It's useful in planning out your day. Let's just play it forward. Okay, let's just play it through. And you go, this is to this, is to this, and you can manage your time better with it and stuff. So it's really interesting to hear you say that, because it's a very similar technique that I think that you can turn it in, although it's you avoiding a negative thing, it's also something that you can just do to grab hold of positive things.
Yeah, and the thing about play the tape forward is that there's such a high level of predictability with the system you're talking about. I think it's a bit like one of those old adventure books of, if you turn to 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
this might
man.
happen, and this
Yeah,
might happen, and that might happen. With
yeah,
this, there's only one thing that's going to happen.
mm,
This is a linear novel. We've already read it. We know what the end is going to be. There is no really. There's the only like possible variables in this. Who are we going to piss off? What stairs are we going to fall down? Like, yeah, how shit are we going to feel tomorrow?
yeah.
Those are the variables. The end result is essentially the same, or perhaps it will be worse than what happened last time. And that's also a really strong deterrent for me. Is, as well as play the tape forward, is also any time that I pick up that first drink, there's a possibility that it could end badly. Because historically speaking, things have happened, like me falling down a hill, or the stairs, or one time when I'd left the oven on, as cliched as it is, and I'd just passed out. And and I think knowing that, being like, this first drink could end in something really bad for looking back historically, the things that happened before. Okay, that's probably a small percentage of the time, but it's still a percentage of the time. And what's to stop this occasion from being like that or worse?
Have your goals changed at all?
Um, that's a very good question. I think what this has done is, being sober has got me so much more interested in a lot of more kind of philosophical reading and understanding the self, and appreciating the moment, and basing happiness on things that are actually already within us, rather than desperately searching for outward stimuli that somehow will make our lives better, and measuring our lives on that. Is that my goals have sort of changed. I mean, I used to have that whole sense of, one day I will be singing in Wembley Stadium, and it'll be me, my band, and my songs, and it'll be amazing. And that sort of being the kind of the goal that's been with me from the moment I picked up a guitar. And now it's something that is a lot more, I think, healthy and authentic. Which is, my goal is to be able to produce music that connects with people, that helps them in their lives in some way. And the definition, I think, of success is to be able to do that, and to be, and whether that be people in your local community or whether that be worldwide, that your music can help them in some way, can help them through their day, or inspire them to create their art, or whatever it is, whether that be in the local community or that be worldwide. And then the second strand, I think, of what I consider to be success, is to be able to work with people that you really admire, whether those are people who inspired you in the first place, or people that are in your current peer group that you think are fantastic. And that, for me, is how to define, is kind of what I would say my goals are. And let's do more of that, and let's do it on a higher level, and just keep going on that journey. And I'm fortunate enough that I have already had a number of experiences in both of those examples, um, of having people tell me that my work has inspired them in some way, and being able to work with people that I admire, and people that inspired me in the first place. So just go, hang on, things are going really, really well. Let's just keep going. And now that there isn't the obstacle there of 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 alcohol, what next? What could be possible? But as I said, in terms of achieving greater things in those spheres, and also just about feeling calm and happy, which I think is, without being cliche, that's the ultimate success. You know, people at the end of their lives generally won't say, God, I wish I'd had more money, or I wish I'd had a really good car, or I wish people would have thought I was cool. They think things like, I wish I'd laughed more, I wish I'd worried less, I wish I'd been more chill. And trying to get into that mindset of, this is the time now when we should be enjoying ourselves and feeling relaxed and appreciating what's around us. I think that would be a goal.
I was involved with this actress, very, very, very beautiful girl, and um, she her thing was, uh, I remember saying to her, what is it you want? And she just goes, I just want my film. And I was like, and she was like, no, that's what I want. I was like, what? And then you'll be happy. And she was like, yes. And I went, sweetheart, if that's where you're gonna base your happiness, on this one film, and like you get your DVD and it just goes into a pile of DVDs, and then there's nothing left, you're gonna get to the top of that mountain and want to jump off of it, because there is no, once you get to the top and you're by yourself, it's a very lonely place to be. And I think I'm happy to say that now that she's completely changed, her I don't want to say her outlook, because like what you said, it's about looking inside. Because here's the trick. I think that the way the world is set up is to make us think that our goals are out,
Yeah.
like everything is out there,
Yeah.
whereas and that's the lie, because ultimately our happiness depends on us. I think to some people, the way I live my life would be an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I haven't been so happy in I can't tell you how long it's been since I don't think I've ever been so consistently happy in just being a musician. And in a worldwide pandemic, that's what pandemic is. But yeah, in a pandemic, being so happy, but understanding that our journey is the thing which we should be happy to be on, as opposed to not happy, not happy, not happy, goal happy, not happy, not happy, not happy, goal happy, not happy. And it's just like, enjoy the journey, enjoy, like, embrace the peaks, embrace the troughs, see what you can learn from it. Nothing of any real worth was gained from being from everything going well. It's like, all the great novels that we've ever received. Ah, well, everything was fine today, and here we find our hero sat back reading a book, and everything was fine. No, no, no. The stories we want to hear about are the redemption stories. The stories we want to hear about is people going through struggles, coming out the other side, and actually doing something with themselves on that journey. Like the hero's journey is the story of little Frodo and Samwise. Like, the carrying that flipping vice and throwing it in the fires of Mount Doom. And that's kind of, it's almost like what you've done. And I wish I'd have maybe been your Samwise on some of that with you. But I'm glad that you've sort of been able to talk about it, and I'm glad that you've come so far. You do seem like you've really I don't even want to say turned a corner, because like I say, it was all very confusing for me, hearing this, that you thought that you had a problem, and I didn't even know that you'd been to AA at all. So I'm
Yeah,
really.
well, I think part of this is actually having the courage to have this conversation with you in a very kind of public way,
Mm,
and because there's always an element of, I don't want to talk about it because I think therefore it might seem like I've got a problem, which then makes me less of a human being in some way, less employable in some way, like all these kind of fears. And part of what I've been discovering about during this journey of the last four months is that having courage, taking risks is an amazing thing to do. And then you can just discover with each new risk you take how really the world isn't dangerous. And just as a very quick overview of why I think the drinking happened with me was because I had been taught from a very early age, by whatever factors brought me up, that the world is dangerous, that everything is dangerous, everyone's out to get you, everything's an enemy, you're always in danger. And the way of coping with that was to drink, was to avoid confrontation, was to people please, and was to destroy critical thinking and long-term causality thoughts by drinking. And now drinking's gone, I'm able to go, okay, let's actually discover, by taking more risks, by having those conversations maybe I don't want to have with people, that the world isn't dangerous, and that actually 99.9% of our lives is actually full of joy and pleasure and great things that we don't really appreciate. And the last thing I want to say about it is that something about the potency of the present moment and the fallacy of the past and the future. So this whole thing that we have, like, when I have that thing in the future, I will be happy, and I will not be happy until that time. Or, look at these old photos. Weren't we happy back then? There's never happy now. It's always like something that's irrevocably lost into the past, or something that would someday will attain when we have achieved status of some kind, or own some sort of object, or have a certain
yeah.
amount of wealth or whatever. That time never comes. And that time back then probably wasn't that good, because you were the same as you are now, freaking out about the future and the past.
Well, I hate to say it's the girls, when they're I just find that it's notoriously I just remember seeing a group of girls. I was out with my dad. It was a squeeze show, and they were like they were all stood around, and they were just looking down at their phones. And someone went selfie, and then they suddenly switched it on. Everyone was like, "Ah, we're having a great time!" And then the picture was taken, and they all just went back.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a perfect example of how then that will be looked back on as, oh my, do you remember what an amazing time we had at that show? When the reality of it was that it was pretty mundane and no one was really talking to each other.
I know. Yeah, this has been great, Ben. I really wish you. I don't even know if I wish you every success, because I know that you'll make your own successes, whatever happens. I'm just really happy for you that you are able to, you feel that you're able to now enjoy the experience of just being happy in the moment and enjoying the journey a lot more, without something to like alcohol to be dependent on. So
thanks, man. It reminds me of something you said to me at Hard Rock Hell in 2015. I was being morose and agitated, as I usually am before gigs, because I'm so worried that something's going to go wrong. And you just came up to me and you went, dude, just, you got to chill out, man. You got to relax. And you know why? And I said, why? He said, because you're you and you're great. And it stayed with me since then, of like, that was such a wonderfully kind of positive and grounding thing to say. And because I respect you, the fact you were saying that to me really, really helped. The simplicity of it was beautiful. So thank you. And that's resonated with me across the years.
I I think without audience, please don't be like, "Oh, go get a room, guys." But I think there is. So me and Ben, I would consider us, very close friends, just because we've seen some stuff, man, and we have seen some things together. We've been through some things together, and but ultimately, I think when you have friendships, when you have especially professional friendships, where there's a sort of another level of trust. It sort of fits into a different bracket, because you're not just friends. It's like there's responsibility involved. When you don't realize how you affect each other in certain things that you say. Ben has said stuff to me that I've taken with me, and he probably doesn't even know about. And so I remember there was this one time when you said to me, "This is going to sound so gay, but I'm going to say it." It was more for, we were backstage at the Underworld, and I just come off stage, and I think I was sweaty, and I took off my top, and you were like, you had a six pack, and you were like, "Oh, I've got to sort my effing life out," or something, because you were like, and I know that sounds like, it does sound a little bit gay or whatever. Who cares?
I love it.
But what that was you saying that you needed to hold yourself to higher standards. This is how I took it. I need to hold myself to higher standards, and I'm holding Dan as higher standard. And for me, I was like, how is Ben holding himself to my standard? I'm trying to hold myself to his, for God's sake. He's going on tour with Linkin Park. He's going on tour with the, like whoever the hell it was. And, back in, I remember you toured with some just amazing bands. And like, what was it? I remember seeing, I remember Roz showing me pictures of the stadiums that you were playing and everything, and Roz just typing back, "What is your life?" You know what I mean? And so I think, all I would say is to people watching this, as homoerotic as that maybe sounded, it wasn't meant to. And at the same time, all I would say is that you never know how you're going to influence someone in their lives. There is going to be people looking at you as a success story. Be the success story in your own lives. Be the champion in your own movie, and really and enjoy every single day. Even if you think that today is rubbish, I don't know what to do with today. Today can just get in the bin. But there is always something to take from the day, and to take from the experience. And Ben, I just want to say a massive personal thank you for coming on this and being so open and so honest about all this, because I just really admire how honest you've been about it. And I really do think that this is gonna help people. I think it's gonna be very insightful, and I do hope that it encourages more people to take control of their lives in many different ways.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, then, thank you for doing this and facilitating all this, and I appreciate it.
Great. Well, take care of yourself, my friend. I
You
look
too, man.
forward to seeing you very soon.
Absolutely.
And everyone, thank you very much for watching. My name is Daniel Leigh with Ben Christo. Stay frosty. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.